Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lillian and I'm a student at UC Berkeley. I'm a third year majoring in environmental sciences. And for today's video, I'm going to be talking about housing at UC Berkeley because I feel like this is a topic that is pretty big in Berkeley because there is a housing shortage, but also because this is something that I wish I would have known more about before I came to Berkeley, just because it would have given me a better understanding of what I was getting myself into. So hopefully this video helps incoming or current students, and let's get into it. Number one is on-campus housing. So most freshmen, unless they're commuting, will live in a dorm on campus, and the main ones are Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, and then Foothill and Clark Kerr. And of all of these, it kind of depends on who you ask, but the best ones would be Unit 1, Unit 2, or Clark Kerr. And I think most people come to the consensus that Unit 3 is not the best. It's pretty old, and that's actually where I stayed. And I didn't really like it because, like I said, it's the oldest one, and also I was paying a lot of money for the room that I had. I was staying with two other girls. We were in a triple, and I was paying $1,700 a month. And because I'm an out-of-state student, I don't really get any scholarships or financial aid, and so it was super expensive for me. The only good thing is that that does include a meal plan, and so I was able to eat in the dining hall pretty much every day. I got 12 swipes a week, and so I didn't have to worry about food costs outside of what I was already paying for rent. And I also wanted to mention that on-campus housing is not just for freshmen. You can stay in on-campus housing beyond your freshman year, but it is pretty competitive because there's not a lot of space, and so you can apply, but it's not guaranteed. And there are other residences for that. So for example, there's Martinez Commons, that's a place for continuing and transfer students. So there are a lot of housing options. And also I wanted to say that when you do put your preferences for which building you'd like to be in, almost everyone will put Blackwell, which I forgot to mention, but Blackwell is one of the newer buildings and it's super nice. But I wish I would have known that most people are not going to get it just because everyone wants it, and it's reserved usually for athletes or Regent students, things like that. And so I put Blackwell as my first choice, but I didn't get it. So just something to keep in mind for incoming students who are applying for housing. Number two is off-campus housing. So most people after their freshman year will move off campus for the rest of their college years. And so that's what I did. I moved into an apartment beginning my second year of college. And so now I live in an apartment and I pay around $950 every month, and that is before utilities. So I pay for utilities also to my property manager, and that includes things like trash. And then there's also PG&E, which is a separate thing that I pay directly to PG&E, and that's for utilities. And so it is different in that way, where once you move off campus, it's not really a single fee anymore and you have to pay a few different things, but it's not really too complicated. And I was gonna say that I live in an apartment, but people also choose to live in houses or in co-ops. Co-ops are where usually there are a lot more people and they do things like cooking meals for one another, and it's much more of a community experience is what I've heard, and you're very close with all the people that you're living with, but it is definitely not for everyone because you are living with a ton of people. And in terms of how far you are from the main campus, I would say that it really depends again, but you're not going to be as close to campus as you usually are with on-campus housing. So for me, I have to walk 15 to 20 minutes to get to campus, depending on where I'm trying to go specifically, but it is definitely further than when I lived in Unit 3, which was in a prime spot, and it was 10 minutes maximum to get to places on campus. And also another thing to think about is if you want a single or double. Singles are more expensive, they're usually $1,500 to $2,000, whereas for a double, it's usually closer to $1,000. But you are getting your own room, so that is the perk. Number 3 is roommates and sharing space. This is a really new thing for a lot of people. It was the first time that I had lived with someone when I came to campus, and so the first thing is finding roommates. I went random for my dorm roommates my freshman year. It unfortunately didn't really work out. Nothing bad happened, but we also weren't really friends and we kind of just went about our own lives. And so sometimes it works out with going random, because I actually went random again for my second year of college when I moved into an apartment. I moved in with people that I hadn't known before. We just got lunch together. One day I decided that we liked each other and moved in. And this time it's worked out really great and they're my best friends now. So it really depends just on luck, honestly. And so I would say that that is one thing, is managing your expectations for when you're finding roommates. It's not always going to work out and it's not always going to be your best friends, but you kind of just work with what you've got. And sometimes it's just taking a vacant space if you hear of one. That's how I ended up at my apartment here now. I was supposed to room with a friend, but it didn't work out, and so I just joined a group of 3 that was looking for one more person to fill their apartment. And the other thing is that when you're living with people, you have to make sure that you are sharing responsibilities equally, and so the biggest thing is chores. And so my roommates and I, we rotate chores every week: who cleans the kitchen, who vacuums, who cleans the bathroom, and just really communicating about that and making sure everyone is doing their part will help lead to a much smoother roommate relationship. Number 4 is proximity to San Francisco. I had to mention this one because I think that one of the biggest perks of going to UC Berkeley is how close you are to San Francisco and all the other cities in the Bay. And so it's pretty convenient to get to San Francisco. You can take BART, which is the train, and it takes around 45 minutes, depending on where specifically you're going in SF. And it costs about $10 one way. But if you're blessed and you have the Bay Pass, which one of my roommates has, that is a pass that lets you ride BART and the ferry and lots of other things for free, whereas most students just have a more basic plan where you can only ride the bus in the Berkeley area. And actually, I've heard that they're considering expanding the Bay Pass to all students in the future years, so hopefully that will happen and future students will get that, because that's an amazing perk. But I honestly think that it should be given because BART is a really common method of transportation when you're a student here, and so I don't think that students should be paying so much for BART, and that it should just be included. And you can also take the bus to San Francisco. Of course, it's going to take longer, but you can take the bus, and that way would be free, I'm pretty sure, because you can use your Berkeley issued bus pass. Number 5, last but not least, is the Berkeley culture, because if you're going to be living here, it's a good idea to get a sense of what it's going to be like when you're living here. And so first thing is that Berkeley is very hippie. If you know the culture or the history of Berkeley, it was where there was the free speech movement, and you just really get that kind of hippie vibe. And you can also see it in the buildings and the architecture. It's really beautiful, and some of it is very historic. And not to mention the UC Berkeley campus, of course, also has some really beautiful buildings if you've never toured it. But yeah, it was just, I think, kind of a shock for me when I moved here, because I hadn't visited before, and coming from Seattle, specifically Bellevue, I wasn't really used to that vibe, because where I'm from, I feel like it's a little bit more modern. And then the second thing is that Berkeley is very busable, like I was saying before with the BART, is that the Bay in general has great public transportation, and so it's really easy to get around even if you don't have a car. And like I mentioned before, you pay a fee every semester as a Berkeley student, and in exchange you get a Clipper card where you can bus around as many times as you want, and it's really great, really convenient. And the last thing is homelessness. This is a really big thing. I feel like when students are coming here, they always talk about how worried they are about homelessness and all of that. And I would say that it's definitely very present here. You'll see a lot of homeless folks on campus, off campus, but for the most part, they don't really bother you. They're just kind of doing their own thing. So as long as you just stay vigilant, but also just stay calm, I think that you'll be fine. I feel like with any other thing, you just stay alert and you're careful and cautious and you're usually okay. And I personally carry pepper spray, as do a lot of other students, and that's great for just having an extra thing in case anything happens. But yeah, I don't think it's anything to worry too much about. So yeah. And that brings me to the end of today's video. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Please let me know if you like these style of videos. I know it's a lot of talking because I'm just sitting here and it's different from the more vlog type of videos that I usually make, but I hope that this is informative for anyone who is coming to Berkeley or is a student here right now, or even parents who may be watching. And let me know if there's anything else that you want to see relating to Berkeley or anything else, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.